and then I'll play too.
Hey guys, so Owen's right. If you let a kid say they're not good at this or that, they won't be because they won't practice it. But you always hear people say, "I'm bad at math," and you're like, "Nephew, yo, you're not bad at math. You just haven't practiced it." Then they go and practice, and they come back later. I can't believe I'm like the best at math in the class. Like, yeah, because you practiced it like you would do any other skill, right? I always try to encourage
And
people.
the bar is so low today. That's kind of a easy thing to do. To be the best in your class.
I mean that's true with a lot of things, the one-eyed, man is the king of the world, right? And then when the world of the blind, right? That happens. SJV is also right that work produces time, right? If you make something, then you don't have to try, you don't have to do as much to get by. Like an example I have right now is I don't have water at my place, right? But I have like one of those ramjet sewer sump pump things that you go up a little couple stories, right? If I would find my ramjet pump and dig myself a little well from my gutter water, I could ramjet the gray water and rinse off my uh, greasy pan. So I would have less work to wash them. Right now it probably takes like a half an hour to wash a pan sometimes with very little water. You know what I'm saying? So if I would do that work and do that part, that would do that. Sometimes because can't get in the shower here, can't do this there. Something that would take another person 5 minutes takes me hours, right? Just because it's like one thing leads to another. But if I do the more work I do in my house, the more time I have, right? So I'm constantly balancing getting my game out and making money with working here. It's always good to work, right? I always like this. I told my dad when he got in retirement because when you're used to working for someone, it's hard to work for yourself. Tell you what to do. You get what's called analysis paralysis of all the tasks you have. We've talked about this before in the past. In fact, it's good to talk about this now because it's good headspace stuff. We're into mind building. Mind building ties to bodybuilding, ties to heart building, right? So when you go to the beach, this is my story. I always tell this story. You go, wow, the water is beautiful. The sand is beautiful. The flowers are beautiful. Even the stores are beautiful. These people are beautiful. And I like everything that's going around here, right? But you have stores at your house. I mean, where you live. You have rocks where you live. You have the moon. You have the sun. You have water. Well, what makes the beach so special? Why can you appreciate beauty at the beach when you can't appreciate beauty at home? Well, at home, you could be, oh, I could do the deck. I might go back to school. Like you said, you talk about the kids. You gotta do this, gotta do that. Maybe I go to the grocery store. What do I have to get at the grocery store? I have all these schedules to do. You're thinking so many things in your mind. You don't look around you. You're living inside your mind instead of like living inside the world, right? So when you get to the beach, there's the ocean. You can't go past that, right? So you have to stop, right? You at your destination, you travel like 4 hours to get to the beach. Now you're at your destination. Your brain says, "I succeeded." It's something called a zygarnik effect. When you get tasks completed, your brain is happy to have the task completed. That's why a lot of people don't like tasks being finished. So you finish the task, you complete. There's nothing on your butt. You can't do your deck. You're not going to go back to school, or like unless you're taking a wine class or something. One of the things, you're done. You're there. There's nothing on your mind. And when there's nothing on your mind, you can appreciate the beauty around you. And people need to practice that at home, right? Less scheduling, less this, that. Obviously, you want to help people, and you don't want to be selfish, but you need to be able to melt everything off your brain, and all of a sudden you enjoy life. I don't know if it was Bradbury or Huxley. So there's nothing better than a weekend with nothing, no schedule ahead. That way I can enjoy my book better. It's a paraphrase quote. But the idea is people have always known it's good to not have schedules. But if you really know computer science and the mind, how the mind is like a computer, and how you pull instead of like thinking about what you're doing, you're always pulling your memory to make sure it's still there. You want to write stuff down, right? At least. So that's one of the ways of getting stuff done is to write everything down on your to-do list and say my to-do list is my favorite thing. That way you get more work done. All right. So SCV is right. Work produces time. And like I said, necessity is the mother of all inventions, or necessity is a mother, right? Like me, I invented like the self-replicating robot. I Carnegie Mellon apologized to me. A lot of professors apologized to me because I explained how to do LLMAI to them around 2005. They later apologized to me, said, "Yes, Jim, you were right that natural language was the future, not navigation like we thought." And it was really great that they apologized to me really fast, because that shows a scientific mindset versus a prideful mindset. A prideful mindset, what they train Democrats, is you can never be wrong. To be wrong is bad. You don't want to be wrong because then you're terrible. They try and tie being wrong with being a terrible human being, but like Scott Adams and scientists love being wrong because like, hey, I learned something. Let's move on with this. And so I wasn't. When I told me I was right about LMAI at Carnegie Mellon, I wasn't like stoked about myself. I was more stoked about Carnegie Mellon, that they'd be humble enough to just say, "Yeah, I'm a scientist. We were wrong. You were right. Let's move on." Right. So uh, as I develop stuff in my house, it's almost symbolic that I have to bootstrap all of everything I have to do here. I think it's a challenge because I'm trying to bootstrap, say, another planet like Mars or the Moon or something, planetoid. And in fact, if you look at my designs, my mouse driver designs, I have a design that with the self-replicating robots, you don't need all of Starship. You could have 1/20th of Starship could be like a drop zone. So you route the self-replicating robots, deploy the solar cells and nuclear, and start making more robots. So I said Merv, Phobos, Deimos, and Mars in many places instead of just one, right? That way you'd have maybe like 4 drop zones on Mars, 3 on Phobos, Deimos. And if you capture Phobos or Deimos with self-replicating robots, cover that pumpers and solar towers and robots, which is just all metal. The cameras are external, CPUs external. It uses my local positioning system that NVIDIA stole, and that you saw the New Jersey drone lights up there. You wonder what's going on there. That was optical navigation. I asked for a grant for $42,000, but Darpa and those defense contractors, they like their money, and they don't like really smart people, so that undercutting them. Obviously, that's their that's their meat and potatoes. They didn't give me the grant, but they still implemented my design, right? So local positioning system basically uses vision, very basic vision, to know where you're at to the centimeter mark. You can plant gardens. You can play Doom outside. You can play Madden, put AR goggles over you with a camera in front of it. So you basically imagine goggles with a camera in front of you, and you're looking around, and it's basically just looking through your glasses, right? Then you just superimpose pixels, right? Now a display for AR. This is where, by the way, this is what Facebook would have loved to have. This is what Mark Zuckerberg would love to have. They spent $80 billion. They could have paid me $75,000, and I got a working prototype to play Doom in a football field, or Madden in a football field, or play golf, and you hit a ball and the drone goes and retrieves it. Maybe a little bit more than $75,000 for the golf thing, where you just keep hitting off a tees and it keeps putting it back on your tees, or gardening, right? But like the idea is I could have solved that. Really, is like so long story short, with the Elon's using my mass driver technology, right? So if you seeded Phobos, Deimos, or Mars, then when you capture one of them, the other ones maybe don't seed, maybe they don't sprout, right? But let's say you got Phobos, and it's covered with solar towers, right? And the robots are digging down and making underground places. I mean, that's the biggest space station ever, dude. That makes our international space station look like chump change. When you got like a Phobos with 5,000 square foot apartments and hydroponics going on there. You have like gyms where you have like low gravity basketball. You could be running track around it, right? But you captured it, right? Now it's a technological paradise, right? And what you do is how are you going to capture Deimos or Mars? Well, you can put a mass driver. You have the electronics to build a mass driver on Phobos, right? So you build a mass driver, and basically you could fire, an Optimus robot from Phobos on the Mars. It has enough atmosphere to use a wingsuit to slow your descent, and then power up a turbine so it lands with a spin just before it hits the ground, right? So I was talking about that before. Traditionally, mass drivers are known to be used for mining the asteroid field, because you can use either solar or nuclear for electricity, but you need propellant. So you would latch onto an asteroid, and you take harvest the parts you like in a bag, and then use the part of the asteroid as propellant, and you start going to the next asteroid as you harvest the pieces you like off of each asteroid. That was the traditional idea of mass drivers. Using mass drivers to launch off of, say, a moon back to the planetoid, or vice versa, is not relatively new. It's something I came up with, but apparently some other people came up with, and they're using it on. They're going to be using that on the moon recently. What else I got here? Oh yeah, giving the kids before they die. There's a threefold thing I'm going to transfer from all the invention shit to another thing. Giving the kids before you die. Well, like it was exactly right. If you don't give your kids anything, you don't boost them where they need to be boosted. I think I just discovered recently, and he's a genius economist. Thomas Stowe, I believe the guy's name is, and he said there's things you can do in your 20s that you can't do in your 40s, right? So you don't get that boost when you're 20s, even get like a seed. Well, then your whole economic forecast will be bad. Like you say, if you start in a deficit, you're never going to get up somewhere. And everybody knows me. I'm in my close to 50, dude. I've been denied pay and work because I'm too smart and too honest, right? So I'm never going to get to like the house and the stuff by the time it matters. Unless like one of these big tech guys goes, holy crap, Jim, I can't believe how much have been exploited. But the idea is like you want to help your kids, you want to boost them early so they can get that arc. Obviously, you don't want to raise them lazy. If you raise them by the time they're 18, 20, 30, they should know how to learn, right? People go to university unless you go for labs. It's almost a waste because if you know how to learn, you can do everything online with lectures and stuff. You need to learn how to learn. If you train your kid well, I mean, they should be able to sprout and grow wings and do their thing, right? Now, the other options, other than being selfish, is to give them everything, right? And I have a character in my video game called the Giblets. They're hyper dumb, but hyper technology, basically hamsters, like gerbils or something. They're from the very future. That their society got so technologically advanced they forgot how to think. This is from 2022, and everybody looks at it in AI now and goes, "Oh yeah, people are forgetting how to think now, right?" But the idea was they have squabbles and stuff, and they use their high technology, and you can con them to do dumb stuff, or they can become a terrifying thing. It's whatever they want to do, they can basically do because they're so high technology. So if you give your kid everything, spoil your kid, and they might not, grow those rings like you said, right? And then the third way, and this is the third way, besides giving your kids money, denying your kids money, or giving too much. I guess it's the fourth way. You can deny the spirit, right? You can deny the spirit of Jesus. Think, well, giving money to my kids is the only way for my lineages to pull up, to prosper, right? But I believe in the spirit. I see miracles all the time. Love is the way, right? So when you help people around you, when your number one cause is to be a slave to the people around you, be a willing servant to humanity around you, you'll find that God will bless you, right? So you're fighting greed versus the spirit in some respect. If you're not Christian, there's a balancing act when you're Christian. Basically when you're Christian, SJB told it exactly how you're supposed to be. You live on less. If you want to eat beans instead of like steak and lobster, you do that. Then you can have more money to help other people with. Like you live frugally is the balance that Christians use. When Christians ate fish, and you can look this up in the Vatican, when Christians really ate fish in the first, I think, 300 years, the idea was fish was cheap back then. So when you buy cheap food, then you have more to live on for other people. The very teaching of the church has been corrupted. I don't want to affect people's faith. Look, I'm a Christian. I believe in love. I believe in Jesus. But eating fish wasn't some sort of idolatry. Just I like to eat fish. I have to eat fish. It was the cheap food. So if the spirit of fish fry was going on, well, you just eat cheap food like beans and rice, and then you'd have more to help the people around you. And like I said, I don't mess with your traditions, man. I'm not here to rock the boat. This is how I do it. But if you deny the spirit and think, oh well, I have to get as much money as possible, and that'll make my genetic material go on further, my kids go on further, then you're denying the spirit. Because we're all family. All of us right here, we're all family. We're all brothers and sisters of God. We should love each other. All races should love each other, and that's the message of Jesus. All races will be in heaven. It doesn't matter what you look like. It matters what's your heart. God doesn't look at who you are, like your abilities, your strength, your intelligence. I mean, your intelligence, or your how handsome you are, right? He looks at the heart, how much you care about your fellow man. So when you're thinking about investing in your future and your kids' future, that's all good. It's good and say, but invest in the heart and the spirit of helping those around you. Because if you think it's only money, man, you're going to be the biggest loser possible. And you have to be investing in the future, which is beyond the life we're in. And love is eternal. So I'm going to drop off on that, Poppers.
I've
All right.
got something related to what James was saying. I saw a post from Elon Musk the other day where he thinks he has the technology to produce self replicating robots in space that can replicate themselves from resources they mine from space. And that just blows my mind because if they get exponential growth up there or robots reproducing robots, what the heck's going to happen? But I just
Yep,
wanted to share
that's
that.
no. That's actually good because I was sold Elon's company, SpaceX. Supplier launches SpaceX. I sold them how to do this self-replicating robots around last April, May, June, right? They just lifted the technology, like just like Apple took my smartphone designs, Nvidia took my local positioning system, called it SLAM navigation, right? So how it works, SCV, it should blow your mind, because what actually happens, this is interstellar colonization of every single planet in the entire universe with this technology, right? So you have basically, you have the cameras external, you have the CPU external. All you're doing is mining metal, right? So you mine metal, drag it, you two-wheeled robot, like half of opportunity, with like a back dragger, like a rectangle dragger. It drags across what would be called a smelter, right? So you just smelter and you smelt ingot, right? Then you take that ingot, extrude it. There's something called an extruder. You send over an extruder, and you make wire. And there's ways of insulating with the atmosphere and so forth. Now you just spin it up. You have a generator. You have a motor, right? So you have a motor, and you have ingot. You can pour that ingot into molds to make the physical parts, and then you have the motors. You slap on the motors, boom, you have a self-replicating two-wheeled robot. But then you can also make it more complicated. These are called von Neumann probes. I never even heard of the guy's name called von Neumann. I just invented self-replicating robots on April 2025. You can look it. I'll put it in the big pill. Oh, there's no big pill here. You can follow me and you can look it up. But self-replicating robots. So what you do is you land on Mars. Let's say we'll get rid of the sprout, seed, bloom phase. We'll just say you cover Mars and solar towers, right? And then the robots take AI commands, right? So you say, well, hey, build apartments underneath it. So you build 5,000 square foot apartments or hydroponic paradises, separate the nuclear radiation, so it's safe, and also use some of that radiation to have even more power, right? For like pebble beds and fission and fusion. I mean, I'm not like a fusion. Not there yet, but like fission and pebble beds, right? Now Mars is pumping out a lot of energy, right? You do that with Mercury. I'm not sure if we can capture Venus with the atmosphere, but like in 50 years, you'll have a lot of energy just from Mars and all the, you can house like, I'm not going to say we're going to have 4 quadrillion people there in 50 years. You can't even make that many people, but it'll house that many people. But the idea is you're producing energy, you have more places for people to live, you have more materials, lower gravity to launch rockets. So you launch rockets off of Mars. You bootstrap all of humanity. We'll probably be launching from the moon and Earth, but the idea is you have so much energy coming from these self-replicating robots that make solar towers. We can take a stab at Alpha Centauri within 50 years, right? This is like, to me, Mars is the gimme. If Elon knocked on my door next day, we could have a chance of getting self-replicating robots on Mars or the moon in the next launch. I mean, we'll probably aim for the moon first, but if he knocked on my door, we'd have this technology. Mars is a gimme, right? But Alpha Centauri is not a gimme. You have to train that AI how to do all those tasks that robots need to do the complicated things to land on Alpha Centauri planetoids alone. So we can't communicate to Alpha Centauri with any communications, but unless it takes 4.7 years. It takes 4.7 years to get Alpha Centauri. So whereas Mars takes 8 minutes, we can reprogram the LMAIs on the fly. Alpha Centauri will take 4.7 years. So these things better be practiced up and good to be able to seed on themselves, right? So you land on Alpha Centauri. I mean, there's like 10 planets. There's 3 suns there. And they will bloom out with the robots. Then you send the seeds later, right? So when you can send the robots at 100G there, 100G halfway there, turn around the rocket, you know how rockets go, send them out as fast as you can, and halfway through they spin around and fire a thrust the same degree to decelerate. You do 100G out. Well, with you can do that with the robots, but you can't do it with humans. Humans can only do 1G. But maybe the seeds can do like 2Gs, right? So you send out the robots, seed it up, send the seeds, the hydroponic it, and then when you get to communication, it's like a paradise planet. Then we send the people out, because we don't want to send people out interstellar unless we know it's a paradise planet. Or it's like the Jamestown, like when we immigrated to Jamestown, we were able to, we all died. I mean, people died at the Jamestown colony, right? So you want to make sure a paradise planets when you get to Alpha Centauri. But then when you get to Alpha Centauri, once it gets launched as rockets to other star systems, recursively does that. You colonize the whole universe. You make sure you don't destroy beauty on landing, and you don't destroy alien civilizations. But yeah, this SUV. This is really big. This is mankind colonizing the entire universe, every star system that's possible to be colonized. Thank you for letting me talk.
All right. Thanks, James.